Big up, folks. Here we go. We will be talking about they, They, the hierarchy evacuating you. This is the daily struggle. The yod. So, in our daily toils and tribulations, we are much like Sisyphus, pushing our tithing up the mountain, up the pyramid, up the top down construct, this Ponzi scheme that dominates humanity. This is the hierarchy, and we find ourselves quite exhausted, putting ourselves out every day, all day in the hot heat of the sun, and going to sleep at night to process. What are we giving our tithing to? What is this machine that operates on so many levels that we seem unable to conquer? And the riddle of the Sphinx comes to mind. The story of Oedipus coming upon the Sphinx in the city of Thebes, I believe, is where that takes place. And Oedipus is presented with a riddle. The riddle is, what animal crawls on all fours in the morning, walks on two legs in the afternoon, and three in the evening? And Oedipus sits down and he contemplates this riddle. And this is an image of Oedipus here. And, he spends the entire day thinking about what his answer will be, because his life is on the line. It's a winner-take-all proposition here. And you can see, if you look closely, he has his walking stick between his legs. And he spends the entire day in contemplation, and at the very end of the day, as the darkness is approaching, he comes to his answer. And the answer is man. The answer to the Sphinx's riddle is man. And because he conquers, the Sphinx dissolves. When he solves the riddle, the Sphinx dissolves and disappears into an immaterial world. And the complexities of that little story are conceivably very nuanced. We have man dominating over woman, the physical remaining and the immaterial leaving, dissolving. I can't help but see in these numbers, that's the sacred 432. If you're into making anagrams with your riddles, if you want to find the riddles within your riddles, we have quite a significant sequence of numbers there. The 432 hertz. But also, I can't help but contemplate that absence of one Sphinx. The Sphinx is guarding the gates. There are lions that guard the gates to the temple. And that is quite a long-standing tradition. And I want to show how the $1 bill has, as we discussed, a pyramid, with a missing top. The capstone is missing. That's a bit of a circumcision. It's also an observation platform up there. And if you were to go to the top of the Sphinx right now in your mind's eye and turn back and look over the valley, you would look down upon the valley and you would see the back end of one Sphinx. Look very closely. There's a tail. There's a headdress. You're looking at the butt of the cat's ass. And on the other side, there should be a second Sphinx, but it is missing. Go on Google Earth. You'll see the Sphinx is offset. It is to the right-hand side. And it is the left-hand sphinx that is absent from your perspective if you were standing on top of the valley looking down. Now, the reason those two sphinx guard the gates is because they are marcation points for the equinox. This would be, let me think, the winter. Yep, this would be the winter equinox. This would be the summer equinox. These two cats, if you were staring at the heavens for 365 days, you would see that the sun progresses to this lion at the winter and to this lion at the summer. And so all of this is, for geomantic use. It is one giant calendar, and it gives you at-one-ment. You are in tune with the cycles of nature. And so these symbols, at first glance, they look like a serpent. That tail looks like a serpent's tail. But I'm quite sure what we are dealing with are the butt end of the two sphinxes. And that is the seals, the two seals of the $1 bill are signifying a bit of an Egypto-cryptology and leading all back to that marcation point of Giza. So the missing sphinx on the left-hand side, to me, signifies not just Oedipus and his riddle of man and male dominance over the female in material, scientism, taking dominance over human consciousness. It's speaks to the imbalance of the human brain, that we have become much too left-brained, and we have neglected the right brain, the feminine. And there is great reason for that. There are two books to read that are very, very helpful in grasping the imbalance of the human brain, the male over the female, that dominance, the hierarchy, all of these things. The books that I highly recommend would be Alphabet versus the Goddess. Alphabet versus the Goddess discusses how, these correct spelling of letters in the perfect order is a male patriarchal dominant mentality. And the fact that the other half of the brain, the female, is more into imagery, icons, and the feelings conveyed in a image. Think about the Nation of Islam and the Muslim mentality of over graven images. It's very much about suppressing that female half of the mind, and having things in the exact perfect order as commanded by the elders, the patriarch, is definitely all about spelling. And the alphabet, the A, the alpha, the man, the phallus, A, phallus, alpha, bet, bet being female underneath the house, alpha, bet, A, B, the hierarchy. The second book would be The Chalice and the Blade. Now, I'm not going to have the authors' names off the top of my head, but The Chalice and the Blade is very beautiful. It talks about the split of consciousness from a matriarchal forms of government long ago, and how there was a grand trauma that broke us away from that divine feminine. And we have been quite male-dominated ever since. And so that is the reason that I brought the riddle of the Sphinx and Oedipus to bear, and pointing out that missing Sphinx at the pyramid of Giza and its presence on our dollar bill. It is these images are speaking to our divine feminine, our sub-unconscious, the underworld of the vast underworld of the human mind. And I do believe that, some people will call it epigenetic memory. They will call it DNA. The fact that our elders knew these things is the reason why they ring true to us, through that frequency, the DNA frequency. Some people will just straight up call it reincarnation, and that is quite a contentious point in differing theologies. I don't care what you call it. It's frickin' miraculous. One way or the other. It's a damn miracle. It is a damn miracle that we hold knowledge of the past that we were not, quote unquote, present for. So, regardless of what you call it, I try to speak to both sides of the mind as much as I can. Call it magic, call it psychology, whatever kind of logos you want to put on it. But it is a system that is alive and well today, and it's being used in front of our very eyes on a very regular basis. So from there, I want to put some breadcrumbs towards, that Immanuel Velikovsky and his works in the electric universe. One of his greatest books was Worlds in Collision, which is on my reading list. I have not read it. I have only obsessed over the Cliff Notes. The Thunderbolts Project has a lot of work to offer in light of Immanuel Velikovsky's work. But here are some words that we should take heed to. All of these words are pointing back to a very old culture that is still living and in our language. And these truths still hold a powerful significance in stretching back in our epigenetic memory to access the ways of the old world and explaining how we got here today. So, Aristotle, he was a mathematician. His followers were mathematicians, and they believed in this phrase, "Panta arithmos," which means all is math. And this is kind of a nod to that, the old, the more balanced mind, that the feminine, the ma'at, the mother, is the other layer of consciousness. That when Neo has his apotheosis and he walks into the hallway and he sees the numbers flowing through the walls, he's reading the writing on the wall. He can see Panta arithmos. He can see that all is math. And that lends into gematria and geometry and geomancy. All of it on a grand scale. Math is the language of the universe. And then there is a phrase here, hin tu pan, and that means all is one. And now here are two very powerful symbols. We have all, and we have one. All is one. Zeros and ones. We are talking about a supernatural force of, duality. The void and the all. All is one. And Immanuel Velikovsky's work will bring that to full understanding as we look back at the primordial the primordial construct of reality and its many shapes and many of the symbols that are still alive in our mind today. So pan equals bread. When it means all. It does mean all in Greek, but in Latin, pan means bread. And think of loaves of bread back in the day were round. They were spherical. They were just a blob of dough plopped out and baked to a nice crispy outer layer with the soft doughy center. So pan, the all, is bread, and the term bread and circus, it comes from this bread and the circus, the pantheon. The gladiator's arena was round, was spherical. So all of these symbols, when you hear the word pan, you should think of these multicultural definitions of the word. So we have the pandemic right now. We have panic, the satanic panic, all of which is triggered to stimulate your fear. That's what the gladiator's arena was, designed to remind you of the frailty of life, that you should be fearful, that you could be removed from this life at any given time, at the order of the hierarchy. Thumbs up, thumbs down, that the collective can determine your life. We still use thumbs up and thumbs down on the internet. These symbols, they're still alive and well. So the pantheon was a circle of 360 gods. So this ancient pagan collection of consciousness all goes back to the bread and the breeding of epigenetics. And all of it is pointing to the divine feminine. This is the yoni. This is the yoni-verse, the yoni-versal symbol for the feminine. And the masculine, is a even older way of seeing reality. In fact, the Greeks forbid zero. They did not believe in a nothing. They forbid the use of zero in their math. And their first number was 1. They did not start with a 0, they started with a 1. And the concept of zero was forbidden. And there's very good reason for that. It does go back to that eclipsing of the divine feminine. So I know we're getting real long on the wind here, but what I'm going to build into with Emanuel Velikovsky will tie into John Dee's Monas Hieroglyphica. This is a symbol. It looks like Mercury, but it has much more to do with the completion of all the elements. Monas Hieroglyphica, we have the moon. Nas is sun. Hair is air. And glyphica is bringing it into the material. So you have the water, sun, air, earth. The crown of it is the moon. This monas is the sun, the soul, the solar system, the center point. This division of 4, that is all of the elements. We're dealing with the periodic table. And here we have, this is called Ignis. And Ignis is the sine wave. This is, I would signify that as, you see sine there, signa. That is the air, the transience, the flow of time. So we will build the Monas Hieroglyphica, and I believe there is a surface level understanding of what John Dee was conveying. But I believe that Emanuel Velikovsky can take it to a level that many people may have never seen before. Much love, folks. Peace.